The first time I realized someone was watching me, it wasn't a weird feeling in my gut. It was the sound of rotors right outside my bedroom window. I rolled out of bed and saw a drone hovering there steady as a vulture. Its little camera pointed straight at me like it owned the place. And by sundown I was standing in my own woods, staring at two guys digging a hole beside my pond with a 5-gallon container that had a bright, ugly warning label on it, like they were about to turn my land into a toxic headline. I didn't buy Pine Hollow Farm for drama. I bought it for quiet. 90 acres of dirt trees and stubborn old fences in North Georgia, enough space to hear myself think again. I'd spent over 20 years in law enforcement before I retired, and I was tired of doors slamming, radios buzzing, people lying through their teeth with a smile. Out here, the loudest thing was usually a goat yelling because it wanted feed, or the wind pushing through the pines like a long exhale. Then Maple Ridge Estates got built on the hill next door. Perfect little houses lined up like they were stamped out of plastic manicured lawns, white mailboxes, the whole catalog look. With it came their HOA, and I remember thinking, thank God that's not my problem. My deed was clean, my property line was clear, and I wasn't paying anyone a dime to tell me what color my barn could be. At first it was small. A white golf cart would creep along the edge of my fence line, two people in matching polos and khakis clipboards out like they were counting endangered species. One of them would point at my tractor, the other would scribble something, and they'd both pretend they weren't on my land, even though their tires were leaving tracks in my grass. I tried to be neighborly the first time. I waved. They stared through me like I was a problem they hadn't solved yet, then sped off without a word. A couple days later, I caught a guy crouched near one of my boundary stakes, poking the ground with a thin metal rod like he was searching for buried treasure. I called out, "Hey, what are you doing over there?" He flinched like I'd caught him stealing, spun around and took off, ran for the fence, hopped it, and vanished toward Maple Ridge. No apology, no explanation, just gone. I told myself it was nothing. A contractor, a survey crew, somebody lost. That's what you do when you want peace. You rationalize, you swallow it, you keep moving. Then the security showed up. It was midday bright sun, and I saw this guy standing behind my barn, wearing tactical gear that looked like it had been ordered online, black vest, radio, a cheap body cam, and bold letters across his chest that said HOA Security. He held a phone up like he was filming slow panning across my property, as if he was documenting a crime scene. I walked out, not fast, not slow, just direct. You lost. He didn't even blink. "We're conducting a perimeter integrity assessment," he said, like he'd memorized it in a mirror. I laughed once, short and sharp. "That's cute. You're trespassing." "Leave," he puffed up. "Ma'am, sir, this is adjacent to a managed community. We have authority to do what." I cut him off. "Pretend you're a cop. You're on private property. Get off it." He stared at me like he didn't know how to respond when someone didn't fold. I could see it in his posture. He was used to people backing down, not stepping forward. He backed away a few steps, then turned and walked off like he was doing me a favor. I called the county. A deputy came by, took my statement, nodded a lot, and promised they'd keep an eye on it. The deputy left my dust settled. And the next morning that drone was outside my bedroom window like it had a schedule. I was halfway to grabbing my boots when it drifted sideways, slow and deliberate, camera tracking me. It wasn't just flying around, it was looking. The kind of looking that makes you feel exposed inside your own house. I went outside and shouted, "Whoever you are, bring it down here." Of course nobody answered. The drone rose higher, smug as anything, then zipped back toward the hill. That afternoon I met Melissa Hart. She pulled up in a shiny SUV and stepped out like she was arriving at a ribbon cutting, not a confrontation. Perfect hair, oversized sunglasses, blazer and the Georgia heat clipboard tucked against her chest like it was the Constitution. Behind her stood two HOA security guys, suddenly very interested in the sky. "I'm Melissa Hart," she said, smiling the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "President of Maple Ridge Estates Homeowners Association." "And I'm Jack Turner," I said, keeping my voice even. "Owner of this farm you're standing next to. What do you want?" She handed me a paper. "We've received complaints. Unregulated livestock, improper storage, potential environmental hazards." As a courtesy, we're conducting an evaluation of the bordering properties. I looked at the document and felt my jaw tighten. The seal was wrong. The signature was sloppy. It was the kind of fake that counts on you being intimidated enough not to read it closely. "You forged this," I said. Her smile wavered for half a second. "Excuse me, I said you forged this. And you don't get to evaluate anything on my land." Her voice sharpened. "Sir Maple Ridge has standards. Your operation impacts our property values. We will do what we must to protect our community." That word must hit like a threat wrapped in perfume. So I called Sheriff Mark Bennett. Not because I needed backup, but because sometimes you need the right uniform present when a bully is performing. Bennett arrived, took the paper, glanced at it once, then looked at Melissa like she'd tracked mud on his carpet. "This isn't valid," he said. "Your HOA has zero authority here. If your people step foot on his property again, they'll be arrested for trespassing." Melissa's face tightened. "Sheriff, are you refusing to cooperate with community safety?" Bennett didn't flinch. "I'm cooperating with the law. Don't confuse the two." Melissa turned to me, eyes cold behind her lenses. "This isn't over." And then she left heels, clicking, her security guys trailing behind like obedient dogs. After they drove off, the silence felt different. Not peaceful, staged, like the quiet right before something breaks. That night I sat on my porch with a cold cup of coffee, staring up at those neat little houses on the hill, and for the first time since I moved here I felt small. Not physically, emotionally. Outnumbered. Like I'd walked into a fight I didn't sign up for. I started thinking the thoughts I hate admitting out loud. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe I should just sell and move somewhere even farther out. I'm not young anymore. I retired for a reason. I wanted calm, not conflict. And then I actually caught myself sitting there negotiating with fear like it was reasonable. That's what these people do, I realized. They don't win by being right, they win by exhausting you. The next day the drone came back. Lower this time, like it wanted me to know it could. I stepped outside, hands on my hips, and the stupid thing hesitated just a beat. Then it wobbled. It drifted too close to the pond, caught a gust, and dropped like a rock. Splash. Gone. I stared at the ripples for a second. Then I walked down and fished it out with a rake. The plastic was cracked, propellers bent, but the camera was intact. I pried it open and pulled the memory card out like I was collecting evidence, because that's exactly what I was doing. Inside there were hours of footage. My barn, my fuel shed, my back door at night, my kitchen window, and then there it was, video of me walking through my house in a t-shirt, half awake, coffee in hand, no idea I was being recorded. My stomach turned hot. Then I found a folder labeled Phase 2, a PDF, a map. My pond circled in red with notes. Dock access amenity, expansion landowner resistant apply pressure. That's when the whole thing snapped into focus. They didn't hate my farm. They wanted it. They wanted my water, my woods, my quiet little slice of land to turn into a selling point for their shiny neighborhood. And if they couldn't buy it, they'd poison it. Legally, socially, financially, whatever worked. That same night my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Something told me not to. A voice came through, low and shaky. "Mr. Turner. This is Ryan Parker. I used to work for HOA Security." I didn't speak for a second, just listened. He swallowed. "They're setting you up. Melissa told us to find violations, and if we couldn't, we were supposed to create them. There's a guy named Ethan Caldwell, he runs the drone. He said his dad's connected, that nobody will touch him." My grip tightened around the phone. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because it's wrong," Ryan said, and I could hear real fear behind the words. "And because tomorrow morning they're planning to plant something near your pond. A container. Treated soil, they called it, but it's not. It's nasty. If the county finds it, they'll say you did it. They'll shut you down. Then they'll offer to solve the problem by buying your property cheap." For a moment all I could do was stare at my dark yard. The rage came in slow, like rising water. Not loud, not dramatic, just heavy. "Ryan," I said quietly, "I need you to put that in writing." He hesitated. "If I do that, I'll protect you," I said. "But you have to help me stop this." By dawn, I had trail cams set, lights positioned, and my sheriff on speed dial. I didn't sleep. I waited. Around 5:30 a.m., I heard it, metal scraping, low voices, the soft crunch of leaves. I slipped into my boots and moved through my own woods like I'd done 1,000 times. The air was cold breath visible, everything damp and silent except the sound of digging. 2 figures stood near the pond with shovels. A third held a flashlight. And right beside them, half hidden in brush, was a 5-gallon container with a hazard label bright enough to glow. I stepped into the beam of their light. "Morning," I said. They froze. One of them tried to talk. "We were just—" "Stop," I said, calm as stone. "Set the shovels down." They looked at each other like they were trying to decide whether to run or lie. I let the silence stretch. Then I reached down and racked my shotgun just once, loud and final. Not to shoot, to communicate. Their bravado collapsed instantly. The guy with the flashlight stumbled backward. The other dropped his shovel like it burned him. "You're on camera," I said. "Every second. If you run, you'll still be identified. If you touch that container again, you'll be facing more than trespassing." They bolted anyway, crashing through brush toward the HOA side like rats escaping daylight. I didn't chase. I didn't need to. I called Sheriff Bennett, and within minutes he was there with deputies, gloves, evidence bags, the whole routine. They photographed the container, the hole, the footprints, the trail cam footage. I handed over the drone's memory card. Ryan's written statement came in right after, along with a text thread he'd saved Melissa giving instructions like she was planning landscaping, not sabotage. Then I called Claire Monroe, a land attorney who'd been recommended by 3 different old-timers in town with the same tone people use for surgeons. Claire didn't raise her voice once. She didn't need to. She just started stacking facts like bricks: property lines, trespass reports, illegal surveillance, attempted environmental fraud, coercion. 2 days later, inspectors showed up because an anonymous complaint had been filed about my farm. Of course it had. Except this time I met them with paperwork and video and a sheriff standing beside me, not with a knot of panic in my stomach. The inspectors watched the footage of those men trying to bury that container on my land, and one of them muttered, "You've got to be kidding me." The next morning, Melissa Hart called me. I didn't answer. That afternoon, Sheriff Bennett went to the Maple Ridge Clubhouse. I wasn't there for the spectacle. I didn't need it. But I heard what happened because in small towns, the truth travels faster than a drone. Melissa was in the middle of barking at a homeowner about fence paint when deputies walked in. She tried to smile. She tried to talk her way out. She tried to say it was all a misunderstanding. Then Bennett read the charges: trespassing, forging documents, illegal surveillance, conspiracy to commit environmental fraud, harassment. Her face went white. And the best part, if you can call anything about this best, was that Ethan Caldwell, the drone guy with the connections, handed over his data to save his own skin. All that footage, all those files, all that arrogance neatly packaged into evidence. Melissa screamed. Not a classy scream either. The kind that cracks and spikes when someone realizes their power was never real, it was just borrowed intimidation. The deputies put cuffs on her, and in that moment the HOA president facade fell away, and all that was left was a bully who finally met a wall she couldn't threaten into moving. I stayed on my farm, listening to the wind in the pines, watching the pond settle back into stillness, and I didn't feel victorious. I felt returned to myself. Lesson: when someone tries to steal your peace with paperwork and fear, you don't retreat, you document, you stand your ground, and you make them explain it under the law.